On this episode of That One Movie Podcast, Holden, we are going to take a look at hundreds of beavers. We're going to just hold them up and we're going to inspect every single one of them.
Yes.
All right. Yes. The cult favorite film of recent times. Very comedy, hard to see. If you've seen it, you know about it. You haven't, maybe you haven't heard about it. It's a lot of fun. We'll dive into that. Now, you heard about it now. Yeah. Hundreds of beavers. All right, check it out. Find a showing somewhere near you. And then we'll also take a look at Luca Guadagnino's newest film, Challengers, starring Zendaya. It's the talk of the town, Holden.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
Big tennis
Love
movie.
Triangle, sizzling. Ooh,
yes.
It's getting hot in here, Holden. Oof. There's a sauna scene literally in the movie. It's a lot of sweat. A lot of sweat in this movie. We're going to take a look at both of those films today. Spoiler-free and spoiler sections of those. It'll be time-coded. Don't even worry about it. It's getting spoiled for you. But beforehand, we got to talk about some of the news from this week in the world of entertainment. Holden, what are some of our top stories this week?
Yes. So we're going to talk about the trailer for Mufasa: The Lion King.
Yeah.
As well as 28 years later casting updates and a new movie from Aaron Sorkin.
Awesome. Let's dive right into it. I'm Jimmy Youthy.
I'm Holden Sutter.
And it's time for Tom.
Tom. That One Movie Podcast.
Tom.
Jimmy, before we talk about some beavers and some tennis, let's do the Toms.
Let's do the Toms, baby.
The Toms. Toms is the rapid fire segment in which we rate the news of the week in the world of entertainment on a scale of three famous Toms: Brokaw, Bombadil, and Bergeron. Brokaw's the highest, Bombadil's the lowest, and Bergeron is somewhere in between. Jimmy, let's do this one more time.
Yeah, if we seem a little bit more deranged in unhinged Mia Goth style, we were 12 minutes into the podcast when I realized, we have not started recording on our microphones.
Part, yeah.
I had the video backup going. That sounds terrible though. The listeners would not have wanted it.
It would have been pretty funny if we just if 12 minutes in switched audio tracks.
Everybody would have tuned out. It would have just sounded awful. You missed a bunch of great content. You missed us just flubbing the intros to everything. You missed us arguing about whether Aaron Sorkin was Canadian.
Yeah.
There's
we
a
still
tease.
don't know
we
that.
still don't know whether we just said Sorkin sounds like something a Canadian would say. We spent 3 minutes talking about Kraven the Hunter getting delayed. And too much time on Mufasa. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about it a second time, and hopefully this will be more entertaining.
Maybe we'll have more insight the second time around. Yeah. We have a trailer for Mufasa the Lion King this week.
As opposed to Simba the Lion King.
As opposed to Simba the Lion King. This is as I mentioned last time when we were recording, it's like a sequel and prequel to the 2019 remake movie. I'll read the synopsis again. The prequel is about the rise of one of the greatest kings of the Pride Lands. It goes back to the African savannah where Rafiki tells Kiara, daughter of Simba and Nala, the story of her grandfather, while Timon and Pumbaa add color commentary. So yeah,
Timon and Pumbaa add color commentary.
Yeah, it's to me it seems like there's a little, that Timon and Pumbaa part specifically feels like it's throwing in a little Lion King 1.5 in there, because that's kind of the whole point of that movie, is retelling that first one but from their perspective. There's like a shot in this trailer where it's this weirdly too epic shot of this lion attacking Timon and Pumbaa. I assume that's just them blowing stuff up for whatever, them just telling a little funny part of the story, because I was like, why would they be fighting a lion? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the trailer?
Well, like we both said previously,
yeah.
Neither of us have seen the 2019 film. And some of these Disney live action remakes are pretty uninspired, but then, Jungle Book was really good.
Yeah.
And
it's been a long time since I've seen the original, but I might say I like that more than the original from what I remember. The remake.
Same here. I haven't seen either of them in a very long time. But so, this is a new story that's a little bit more interesting than just a remake. But am I all that interested in this? Honestly, no, I'm not. Aaron Pierre, who's playing Mufasa, is what's his name?
He was Mid-Size Sedan.
Mid-Size Sedan in the movie Old. Who's like is he like the first character to die?
Yeah, he's one of the first.
He's one of the
he's
first.
Like the
spoilers.
The musician who gets trapped on the beach that makes you old.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see him there. It's not, James Earl Jones.
No. Well, it wouldn't make much sense because
I find your lack of flying disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to hear James Earl Jones, like 85-year-old man trying to voice young Mufasa.
Oh, we didn't mention last time. For like the trailer starts out and they're like in an ice cave.
What are the lions doing in an ice?
Lions doing in an ice cave? I mean, granted, there's mountains in Africa, so there can be a lot of ice up high there. But I don't.
What's a lion doing up there?
What's a lion doing up there? Otherwise, I don't think of many ice caves in Africa. No. It doesn't make much sense to me.
No. But you never, we're learning new things all the time. About the geography of Africa.
Yes.
It looks fine. It looks fine.
The other thing I didn't bring up last time that I wanted to mention is there's like a line in this trailer where the Mufasa came from a line of like nobodies or something, but isn't like
nobility.
Aren't they like in the original Lion King? Isn't like the whole thing they're from like a long line of nobility or something?
I don't know, Holman.
Maybe I could be misremembering it, or maybe they changed that for the reboot. Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows? I like the Lion King. I do not love the Lion King. Yeah. Like some people are like, it's the greatest Disney movie ever made.
Yeah, I mean it's a very good Disney movie, but I like Lilo and Stitch more. I like several other Disney movies more. I probably like Mulan more. Personally.
Well, I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do, but I probably do too. But it's still very good. Very influential.
Yeah. Jeremy Irons Scar movie. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Give me Scar.
Scar's song.
Give me Scar, not the Scar Giver.
The Scar Giver. Yeah.
Zack Snyder, give me Scar.
Yeah. This trailer is a Bergeron from
directed. Did we mention that it's directed by Barry Jenkins?
Oh no, we didn't. Yeah, directed by Barry Jenkins, which is
Moonlight. If Beale Street could talk.
Yeah, it's probably the most interesting part of this movie. The fact that he's doing it, but
Jon Favreau did the last one.
Yes, he did. I don't know if he's involved even in producing this one at all. But
get him out of here.
Get him out of here, John.
Go direct an Iron Man movie,
off, John.
go write the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Yeah, please. But other news this week, Jimmy, we could spend another 3 minutes talking about Kraven the Hunter is delayed from August to December 13th this year.
You missed out on our whole rant that nothing comes out in August, but this year there's a few things that come out in August.
You got the new Alien movie, you got the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, you got a couple others, Borderlands, I guess, but I think this was originally coming out like the last couple weeks of August, and that is pretty blank right now. So
yeah.
And now it's coming out in December where the Mufasa movie is coming out, and I'm pretty sure several others that off the top of my head I can't remember. I think that like Lord of the Rings animated movie that's apparently happening is coming out then too. I don't know. So yeah, it just seems kind of crowded in December for this to come out.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? This movie's going to be awful. It's going to be another awful Sony Pictures Universal Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Last time I said there's no movie that could possibly be worse than Madam Web. This year we got Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, and it was worse. So I'm not going to go say that again for fear of it blowing up in my face once again. So I don't care about this movie. Bergeron, Kraven the Hunter, get it over with. Just come out now. So I can just rip off that Band-Aid.
Let's put this where If is. I'd rather watch this than If.
Oh gosh, I don't want to see If.
I don't think we have to. I think I looked at the schedule and there's other stuff coming out.
I certainly hope so. My word.
But now, Jimmy, we're at the point where we
uncharted
stopped
territory.
time.
We shaved a nice 2 minutes off.
We
that
did,
moment.
yeah, not too shabby. But Jimmy, other news. 28 years later, this movie that we keep getting updates about. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Speaking of Kraven the Hunter, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Ralph Fiennes have been cast in this movie. And apparently the current plan is to shoot the first two films of this trilogy back to back, despite having different directors, which is kind of interesting.
That is really interesting.
So yeah, what do you think of this, Jimmy?
Okay, I had to look up Jodie Comer.
Yeah, so she was in Free Guy.
Free Guy, The Last Duel.
Yeah,
Killing Eve.
She's one of the stars in Killing Eve. She's
The
apparently
Bike
very good in
Riders. No, I'm Tom Hardy.
doing a weird voice. Tom Hardy.
Hey, I'm Mr. Butler. I'm also doing a weird voice.
I feel like there's something else she was in that was like kind of notable, but yeah, she's good in what I've seen.
Ralph Fiennes, of course, Lord Voldemort.
Yeah,
The
fantastic actor.
guy in Schindler's List, Nazi dude.
Yeah.
Anything else? The
That's
King's
it.
Man.
That's it.
The King's Man.
Yeah. We're totally flubbing Ralph Fiennes'
The
extensive
Menu
filmography.
Chef.
Oh yeah,
There you go. That's all of them.
that's all he's been.
And
No,
then
he's great.
And then Aaron Taylor Johnson is Quicksilver and Kraven the Hunter.
And Kick-Ass
Yeah.
in the movie Kick-Ass.
There we go.
Yeah, and he was also in Bullet Train, and I think he's in
that's right.
The Fall Guy coming out. I think he's like the star that Ryan Gosling is the
Stunt double
for.
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't have super strong opinions about this. Like none of them are like, oh my gosh, I got to see this movie. It's not Ryan Gosling. It's not Brad Pitt.
I do really like Ralph Fiennes. He's probably the
Emma
one I'm most
Stone.
excited for. But the others, good actors, what I've seen them in. So I'll give it a Brokaw. Sure.
There you go. Holden's nicer than me.
Yeah.
Bergeron. I don't want any of these B-list actors. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. We need more Ryan Goslings. We need a Ryan Reynolds in this movie. We need Ryan Reynolds in the zombie movie.
Who would be good in a zombie movie that hasn't been in a zombie movie? Just a nice bleak.
Yeah, just an actor that's very good at playing bleak.
Just give me Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen would be good. I feel like, yeah, maybe he hasn't been in one. I mean, I knee jerk. I wanted to say Cillian Murphy. I'm like, oh, he's literally in 28 Days Later. So,
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. But other news this week.
Brian Cox. Did you see what he said like today?
Yeah, what was it?
He said the Bible was the worst book ever.
I almost sent it to you because I was like, oh, Brian Cox at it again.
I thought it was an Onion article.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh
like
no,
one.
he just said it.
He's like, Brian Cox just going off on these hilarious quotes.
I don't know. I thought Jane Eyre was pretty boring. Brian Cox, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, look up the quote. Look up Brian Cox says the Bible was the worst book in the world. That's very funny.
That man, hilarious.
Yeah,
just the gift
going.
that keeps on
if he keeps
giving.
giving these interviews, we could make a segment. We could just what did Brian Cox say this week? Otherwise, Jimmy, Tron Ares, the third Tron movie coming out. Jeff Bridges confirmed that he is returning for this movie. He said, I'm heading off this Saturday to play a part in the third installment of the Tron story. I'm excited about that. It's wild. Jared Leto is the star of this third one, and I'm really anxious to work with him, and I've admired his work. Really excited to see what the technology is going to be all about this time. He died in the last one, so I'm like, I don't know.
It sounds like, I mean, if I'm heading off this Saturday to play a part in the third. That sounds like I'm here for one day.
Yeah, that's kind of what
flashback and they're de-aging
he's not going to
again.
be like a huge. Well, I mean, because
maybe he'd be like a little flash drive in it. It's like, oh, this is my AI consciousness, or I recorded that. If you were watching this, I'm dead.
Yeah, because I feel like the cast, Jared Leto, Greta Lee, Evan Peters.
I didn't realize Jared Leto was the star of it.
Yeah, he is. Cameron Monaghan.
I didn't realize Cameron Monaghan is in it, aka Jedi Fallen Order Cal Kestis.
There's not really any A-list actors, I'd say, I guess, aside from Jared Leto maybe, but yeah, I mean, it's still pretty stacked. So yeah, Jeff Bridges, I would assume, as his Kevin Flynn role, probably just pretty small, or maybe he's at the end and his villainous counterpart with the bad de-aging comes back.
Perhaps
At the end, post-credits scene.
he's really excited to work with Jared Leto. He really admires his work. Really?
What? Are you sure? Sure you're not just like gun held to your head? Have to say that?
Jared Leto. We're talking about the same guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm really anxious to work with him. This guy who's just notoriously awful to work with.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe anxious, he means that in a more negative route.
Maybe Jeff Bridges is just also a huge, weird jerk guy.
I love Jeff Bridges and like everything I've seen him in. I think he's a pretty great actor, and I love him in Tron Legacy.
Really his defining role.
Really?
The Big Lebowski. Yeah, I don't think so.
No, get that out of here. Tron Legacy is where it's at.
Bergeron. I don't remember Tron Legacy. I'm sorry.
I love Tron Legacy. It's cool that he's back. It is weird that both he and his villain counterpart died in the last movie, so we'll see how that goes. I'll give it a Bergeron just because it's Tron Ares and it's Jared Leto.
What a fantastic show we've started with. I've had 4 consecutive Bergerons.
Have you really?
Just a tepid
well,
show.
I had 28 Years Later. I gave that a Brokaw, so I'm mixing it up a bit.
Great.
My end.
Fantastic, Holden. Glad you're bringing the enthusiasm to the show this week.
Yes. Aaron Sorkin. So we've talked before about how he wants to make a sequel to The Social Network. Now it sounds like he's moving forward with that and has a more solid idea. He's making it's like described as a quasi-sequel to The Social Network that explores the dark side of Facebook. His quote specifically said, "I blame Facebook for January 6th. You're going to need to buy a ticket to the movie to see what I mean."
Wow, that's deep, Aaron.
Yeah.
I bet nobody else thinks that.
Yeah, right.
But from Manhattan, putting that Canadian conspiracy to bed.
Oh, yes.
All right,
that
man,
makes sense.
He's full-blood American.
It would be weird if he was Canadian because he is like all of his movies are just very much about core like American events, like American history and stuff, or like,
yeah, that's true. Sure, whatever. I mean, wow, the Facebook caused the January. Wow, the social media. You know what? I think social media is leading to the division in our country.
I think there's some divisiveness here.
Okay, yeah, hey, Aaron, go. Alex Garland's over there. Yeah. All right. He just learned out that men can be sexist. Okay. You guys can have a good chat. Aaron Sorkin, I mean, obviously he's a very talented screenwriter. I'm actually going to bring up something that he said in our Challengers review because I recently watched like his Wired thing. I don't know. Is like, most asked questions on the internet or something.
Yeah.
So I think he's very good. I don't think he's all hits for me. I thought The Trial of Chicago 7 was a very mid movie.
Yeah.
With a bad ending.
Yeah.
But like I haven't seen The Social Network since it was in theaters. So it's been a long time. But I mean,
feel he's someone like Alex Garland where I appreciate the movies he writes and doesn't direct a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
So, bringing up Alex Garland is kind of an apt comparison in some ways. But yeah, and what the article I was reading, it didn't really confirm one way or another, but it read to me like in his quote that he was like writing this, but maybe not necessarily directing it. So I don't know.
So this is not going to be from the perspective of like Zuckerberg. Then it doesn't sound like you would think it'd be like some
probably not
person in getting
unless he somehow gets like David Fincher on board. I wouldn't think so. Because David Fincher had, like, we had talked about it before, that he said he'd be interested in kind of like a sequel to The Social Network. So, like, if he likes Aaron Sorkin's idea, maybe they'll team up again, and maybe we'll have Jesse Eisenberg back. I don't know.
I don't know. But I hope he does his, like, just Lex Luthor bit.
Yeah. I'm a little crazy.
Why am I feeling the Joker? You know what, Holden? Let's keep it going. Bergeron train heading into the station. There we go.
I think I'll give this one a Bergeron too. I don't know. Aaron Sorkin, good name attached, but his Trial of Chicago 7 wasn't very good. I heard Being the Ricardos was mid too.
I forgot that he wrote that.
Yeah, I think he directed it too.
My parents really liked that one.
Oh, really? I feel like the movies he's directed are very much like parent movies.
Yeah,
just like. Very, I don't know.
Well, he is the age of my parents.
That's true.
62 years old.
Jimmy, other news though. Zach Kreger's new film, director of Barbarian.
Yes. Here we go.
We mentioned it before. It's called Weapons. We don't really know much about it, but we do have some casting. Alden Ehrenreich, Josh Brolin, and Julia Garner, who we still have never seen in anything, but she's doing the Silver Surfer, the new Fantastic Four. We'd looked her up before. She's apparently doing a lot now. But they have all been cast in his new film Weapons that we still know like literally nothing about.
Heck yeah, Alden Ehrenreich, he's great. Young Han Solo was kind of what he's most famous for. He was in Oppenheimer briefly. He was in Hail Caesar. Never did see that. The Coen Brothers.
Hail Caesar.
Yeah,
I think I watched that before I knew who he was. I really don't remember. Josh Brolin was also in Hail Caesar.
Josh Brolin, of course, is Thanos. He's Gurney Halleck in the Villeneuve Dune movies. Yeah, no, I this is great. I'll give it a Brokaw. Yeah. I like these people a lot. And Barbarian is one of my favorite movies of the decade. So
yeah,
super excited. Zach Kreger.
Yeah. New
let's go.
Yeah. Who would have thought the whitest kids you know or whatever he was on. Crazy that he's doing cool horror movies now. Yeah, I'll give it a Brokaw too. Good casting.
Finally, Holden. Finally broke the streak.
Yeah, a little something there. Jimmy, speaking of other indie horror film darlings, the Phillipou brothers who directed Talk to Me last year.
Hold my hand.
Yes. Their next film is apparently not going to be Talk to Me, but it's going to be a new horror film called Bring Her Back. A synopsis is not exactly known yet, but Sally Hawkins, who you may know from The Shape of Water or the Paddington films, among other things, is attached as the lead. Also, she was Willy Wonka's mother in the Wonka movie.
Yeah, she was. She's like, oh, you're going to eat my little chocolate that I made you and then I died?
Yes. I never told you my recipe.
And then Willy Wonka. It's love. Love is the recipe. And then Timothée Chalamet says, I am the least that I'll give, and you will eat my chocolate.
I will lead you to paradise.
Chocolate paradise. That would be an interesting crossover movie.
I feel I've seen some edits where people like edit like one of it, like his big kind of like speech, like in like this chocolate square to like all the people, and then like intercut it with his Lisa Al Gaib speech. Pretty funny.
There we go. Sure. I mean that Sally Hawkins is good. Bring her back. Interesting that it's here in a horror movie.
Yeah,
she seems like she's always in like very. I guess Shape of Water has borderline horror elements.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's kind of like whimsical things that she's in. So Brokaw, sure, why not?
Yeah,
Holden?
Pretty much everything. I think the article I was reading specifically said she had never been in like a straight up horror movie before. So interesting turn for her, but she's very good. So Brokaw for me as well.
Awesome.
Jimmy, Oldboy is being turned into an English language TV series at Lionsgate, apparently. Park Chan-wook is on a board to produce, but I assume he is not writing or directing.
I'm going to give this a bombadil, Holden. This is a movie that doesn't need to be adapted, nor should it be adapted. It's already been adapted once, apparently not well by Spike Lee.
Yes.
So I'm going to say bombadil for this one. Just don't do it. I also just don't think the story really works as a series.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like... It would have to be like a mini series because I don't know. You wouldn't be able to really expand it much beyond that ending.
I didn't watch Oldboy and go, man, I just wish there was another like 4 hours of that.
Yeah, right.
Like, no, that was about right.
I feel like they're just going to really draw out like the investigation part at the beginning into like a full series. And it's going to feel really lengthy. And that'll be unfortunate. But
I'm very skeptical.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a bombadil as well. Doesn't need to be messed with.
Hope it's great. I hope they figure out a way to make it even better.
Yeah, it would
I
be cool.
don't think it's going to happen.
And final piece of news, Jimmy, is apparently Netflix is making a Scooby-Doo live action TV show. This is new news as of today. Josh Applebaum, who was the writer or a writer on Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, apparently, and Scott Rosenberg, who did the new Jumanji films, are developing this for Netflix. Not much is known, and nothing is known about like the premise necessarily, other than it's a Scooby-Doo live action show.
I freaking love Scooby-Doo, Holden.
Yeah, you and your wife watch a lot of Scooby-Doo.
We do watch a lot of Scooby-Doo, Holden, and Scooby-Doo's great.
You watched that Velma show?
We have not watched Velma. What was it that I'm like, that's really dumb? It was something about Velma, the Velma show. It was like, this is the new thing in the new Velma show. And I'm like, why did they do that?
Spoilers for the Velma show if anyone cares, but I've heard like the killer in the new season is Scrappy-Doo. Is that what you're thinking?
No, that wasn't even it. It was just like, here's something they changed. I'm like, why?
Okay. I don't know. Apparently it's not very good. So
yeah, I don't know. No, I have not watched that. I like the normal, innocent, fun ones.
Yeah.
And the James Gunn ones. So, I'm kind of excited. These good people attached don't seemingly have a reason to do Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Why not? Brokaw. It could be fun. Scooby-Doo is best when it's funny. It's funny Scooby-Doo, I tell you. And just the live action parts, like, we'll see.
I think they should make it like Riverdale, if you ask me. Very overly serious, just teen drama with a little bit of mystery solving in it.
No.
That's what I think we
follow the formula.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yeah, James Gunn live action films are very much a favorite of our generation. I'll give it a Bergeron, personally. See how it turns out. But cool.
There we go.
But I believe that's it for Toms this week.
That is the end of the Toms.
We do have TOMPeyes this week.
It's back.
It's back for this week. Mostly because we went to our old location prior to watching Hundreds of Beavers. We went to since Jimmy has moved, we've kind of switched which movie theater we go to, and hence which Popeyes we go to regularly.
There are multiple.
Yeah, and the Popeyes that we go to now, I think there is just like less. I think it's better run. Quite frankly, I think it's just like less interesting to talk about for the most part. Better for the experience in general, not as good for content for the podcast. No. But since Hundreds of Beavers, the theater we went to, was closer to the other Popeyes, went to the old stomping grounds, and how long did I wait for my food,
You
Jimmy?
waited for a long time, and it was a good 40, 45 minutes.
At least, yeah.
And I got my food like instantaneously.
Well, so we get there, and there's already quite a few people there. There's some Door Dashers. There's some people waiting in line and everything. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a bit of a wait. But as soon as you got your food right away, I'm like, okay, so maybe, it won't be as bad. And then, it was like a 40, 45 minute wait. I tried to be patient, and then eventually I just like went up, and I stood up there for another like 5 minutes or so, like waiting to get someone's attention. I was like, hey, like, is my order coming soon? And then they just got it ready right away when I was up there. I think they just completely forgot about me. That was like the busiest I think I've ever seen Popeyes.
They had a lot of big orders too. They just got
I had a couple big orders before us. And I think you had mentioned there were a couple big tender orders, and I usually get tenders, so I think that was part of the reason why it took a while for me.
But I believe you had a door dashing experience earlier in the day that was notable as well. So what was that?
Yeah, so I was door dashing earlier in the day, and I get there, and there's like mid-argument happening, just like between a customer,
like an
someone.
Aaron Sorkin movie. Aaron Sorkin should write a Popeyes movie. Yeah. Oh my gosh!
No, I walk in, and I waiting for. I just kind of walk over to where the Door Dashers wait, and it's like kind of awkward because this lady is arguing with this guy behind the counter, who's the same guy who helped us later that night. And the guy is like yelling at her to get out. She's like claiming that they stole money from her. From what I don't know exactly how it worked out, but it sounded like my what I gathered was that maybe she paid for like a $2 bill at one point. Asked them to hold on to it for her because she like wanted the $2 bill, I guess, because they're a bit rarer, and was like, I'm going to come back and like buy it back from you guys. And they like held on to it for several days. And then they're like, well, we can't just like hold on to it forever. So then they got rid of it. And then she comes back and is mad that they don't have it or something. I don't know. It seemed like a very strange thing to get angry over. And he yelled at her to get out. She left, and then she was like yelling as she left. And then he like chased after her outside and was yelling at her like, "You're not welcome back on these premises, like ever again." And he came back, and they were pretty fired up. It was, I don't know, it was very strange.
That guy also yelled at you, right?
Yes. No, that you're right. No, so I picked up my order. I actually think I had 2 orders there that I was picking up for DoorDash, and I had there were 2 drinks, one for each order. And I'm like leaving. He like had set him out, and I'm like leaving with both. And he chases after me and is like, "Hey, you're only supposed to have like the one Coke or whatever." I'm like, no, I showed him the receipt and what the app said. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to have this. And he's like, "Oh yeah, my bad."
This guy takes his job seriously.
He had like chased me out into the parking lot and everything, and I was like, "Oh, we're good." So very interesting Popeyes experience throughout that whole day, quite frankly. So.
My food was fine.
Yeah, Jimmy got his food. He was done eating it pretty much by the time I got mine, and I had to scarf mine. I'm the slower eater of the two of us, too. So I really had to force myself to eat fast.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we got there early, because we got there, I think, an hour and a half before the movie started.
Hour 20, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. We usually get there like an hour ahead of time, so it was just kind of nice that we had that little extra time. So.
Oh, yeah. There you go. TOMPeyes, it's back for now. Back. We'll see when it comes back. But let's talk about Hundreds of Beavers, Holden.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, we'll do a little quick spoiler-free review before we dive into spoilers. So this is our non-spoiler thoughts about the comedy, all right, with the retro twist that is Hundreds of Beavers.
All right. Hundreds of Beavers, Jimmy. A bit of a strange movie. Do you have a synopsis?
Well, here's your synopsis. You got a guy who, what is it? It's apple cider or something?
Applejack salesman.
Applejacks, and not the cereal, but like the liqueur.
Alcoholic drink from apples.
There's like a very, I don't know what to say, like jib-jab, elf yourself-esque opening sequence.
Yeah.
That I frankly just did not enjoy the opening scene. I was like, the first I was like, I don't know about this.
I was kind of in the same boat.
I was like, oh gosh. And the rest of our theater freaking loved this movie.
Oh yeah. It was a very,
it was a rowdy theater.
Very rowdy theater. It wasn't to the point where it was annoying for me.
I was annoyed. I was like, this movie, I like this movie, but I do not think this is the funniest crap I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Especially the people immediately next to me thought this was the funniest thing they had ever seen.
On your left,
I was like, settle down, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad you're enjoying this, but I'm not enjoying this nearly as much as you are.
I think at the start I was a bit more annoyed with the audience, but I think as it went on, I was able to fall in the mindset of, okay, they're laughing at the jokes. That's fine. They're not really being annoying outside of that. And, the movie is funny. So eventually I was kind of able to just get by it, and it was fine. But
yeah, it's basically this Applejack salesman gets his stuff destroyed in this very jib-jab, elf yourself-esque opening.
Yes.
And that's like 4 minutes. And then it's like this survival horror film, but told in the way of a comedy. And it's like a silent film.
Yeah.
And it's just
silent film with sound.
Silent film with, like your modern sound effects and all that. Really hardly any dialogue at all.
No,
and
just
a bunch of
lines.
visual gags. All the critters in the movie are just adult humans wearing costumes.
Yeah,
like very cheap, cartoony costumes.
Essentially like mascot type costumes.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Mascot-esque costumes.
Yeah,
and our main character kind of becomes a fur trader by necessity. And there's just fun, sort of almost video gamey elements to it.
Yeah.
A very cyclical storyline where you kind of at about 1/3 point of the way through the movie, or maybe a little bit earlier.
About a third.
There's like this map, kind of a circular map, kind of established, and you kind of go around a couple cycles of that, a couple circuits.
Yeah.
And that's essentially the story of the movie. And I thought that was a really clever narrative technique, because it kind of plays into, you get into a rhythm of what to expect, and it kind of leans into those things and then plays off some of your expectations. But yeah, this is a very creative movie with some pretty funny visual gags. Again, very video gamey at times. But yeah, it's one of those movies, especially the just silent film era. Silent films just zip by.
Yeah.
They are really well-paced movies. And I think like you would think old movies, like you think of old movies, you think of like slow, boring, silent films do not fall into that.
Yeah, especially if you're watching like a Charlie Chaplin.
It's just like
Buster Keaton kind of stuff.
Yes, like it's just like they zoom on by. I do think this movie, so most silent movies are like less than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I think this movie is a little too long. I just think that especially towards the end, I was like, okay, this is fun, but I don't think you needed all this stuff. I think it kind of just drew it out a little too much. So like, okay, we need a bigger set piece and a bigger set piece and a bigger set piece.
I kind of agree with that, like within a little bit towards the end. But for me personally, I should mention I've seen this movie twice. Actually.
Oh, you saw it again?
Yeah, I ended up renting this and watching it with my roommate, just because I was like I really enjoyed it and I kind of wanted to see.
I thought you couldn't rent this.
You can rent it.
Oh, when I looked, I didn't think it was even available.
Yeah, no, it's only on like certain things. It's like on Amazon and what is it? It's Amazon and I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, there are. Oh, and yeah, it even says right here, film was released video on demand via Amazon Prime. Oh, and iTunes is the other one.
In April 2024. So like just recently.
Yes, yeah, within the last week or two. Very, very recent. Yeah, okay. If you had looked initially when I first asked you to go, it probably wasn't.
Okay, that's what I think I looked.
Okay,
so now you can see this.
Yes. But yeah, watched it again. And honestly, and maybe it's because, I wasn't with such an uproarious crowd the second time. I maybe enjoyed it even more the second time. I think I was able to appreciate how, even more the second time, how the film constantly builds on its own gags and everything, how it'll take like physical gags from like very early on in the movie and then incorporate them much later in a much grander way. And the movie, like in a lot of cases, goes beyond like the comedic rule of thirds, I would say, but I think it still works. Like you'll have gags that go on like 7-8 times even, but I think they still work for the most part. Very, very funny stuff. And I think one of the reasons why, for me, the pacing never really bothered me and works quite well, similar to those silent movies, is it is like a gag a minute.
Boom,
just constantly.
There's no let up, really, at all. At all.
Not really. No, it constantly, every scene has several funny things happening in it. Scenes don't typically last that long anyway.
No.
They'll move like under a minute for a lot of them. Yeah, it's just very good. And the lead actor, who has a very like long, very funny name. It's like Ryland Brixton Cole Tews is his full name. Incredible. He commits so much physically to this bit. He's so good. It's like one of the things I made note of the second time is some of the funniest parts are just like everyone just like falling over constantly. There's so much of him just like rolling down a hill because he like trips, or like there's some of that with some of the animal costumes too. There's like, I noticed the second time, like the rabbits, which are kind of the focus of towards the beginning of the movie, like constantly they're just like falling over, and it's very funny just watching someone in a mascot costume fall over in the snow. Something very simple about the comedy and some of that, but it works.
Lots of dark humor.
Yes,
I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially in this cartoony-esque thing. Yes, the film is very creative, incredibly creative.
Very Looney Tunes-esque.
Very Looney Tunes, like a dark humor Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it is. It is like a live action cartoon is probably the best way to put it. It's just, I guess, yeah. If you think of like any of the gags and like a classic Bugs Bunny thing, like this guy is like Elmer Fudd kind of in a lot of ways, just like more fleshed out Elmer Fudd. If you're going to follow Elmer Fudd for an hour and a half, that's kind of how it goes. And you have these animals kind of messing with them and everything. It's very weird.
Intentionally like 2-dimensional visual effects to this.
Yes.
Where again, it's playing off like 2-dimensional cartoon effects too. So I didn't think this movie was as funny as a lot of other people did, but I did really respect the craftsmanship of this. I thought that I was like, wow, they really did think about these things, and they are really aware of what works and what doesn't work. It's not necessarily my sense of humor the whole time, but in the same way that I really, like I said last week, I really love superhero movies.
Sure, yeah.
And I was like, like the people to my left, that was, just obnoxious. That was me, a Home Alone, watching superhero movie by myself, channeling my inner fourth grader. All right. So I'm not going to necessarily judge them for that because it's like a different sense of humor. Okay. And not necessarily one is better than the other. I really liked both of them. Maybe, this one has more of a style and kind of a uniqueness to it than maybe superhero movie does. It just has a spoof. Where it just kind of captured the essence of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, where this is kind of invents its own updated modern idea of a live action cartoon Looney Tunes style, which again, I think it's really cool. I think it's going to spawn a lot of like knockoffs. I could see this becoming a genre of film.
It's definitely going to be, it already kind of is. It's going to be a cult classic. I think.
Certainly. This is a cult classic. I think it's already reached that just based on the fervor of the people who saw this. So commend the creators and the writers and just everybody involved. They really captured what they were trying to get at, and a lot of people just it worked 100% for them. And even though I didn't think it was the funniest thing ever, there were definitely like that was good. That was funny. I like that. That is more like the like amusing. I found it very amusing. Not like laugh out loud.
I wasn't dying of laughter like a lot of the people in the theater, but I liked this movie a lot. I thought it was very, very funny just in general. I'm not sure if I would say it's exactly my sense of humor normally, but I was just able to like make it my sense of humor for this hour and a half. Really, I was able to really embrace the movie, I think. I wanted to say the budget is $150,000, which the movie is obviously cheaply made, like you can kind of tell, but it works to the style of the movie too. The movie really embraces it. There's a lot of, as you said, kind of 2D visual like effects that are inserted in there. A lot of green screen, especially towards the end of the movie. But one of the things I hadn't noticed as much the first time watching him, but the second time was they made a really, really good use. I don't know. I have no idea how many like beaver costumes they actually had, but
that's a good point.
Yeah, but they like they would digitally insert like the same people like constantly. There were several shots where it's
very
like,
seamless.
Yeah, there's several bits where you can tell it's kind of a copy pasted, person in the scene or whatever if you're paying attention, but it looks great. It's very good. It's hard to tell. They could have 2 beaver costumes. They could have had 50. I don't know. But it's very impressive from that regard, I'd say.
And I think a benefit of using like the map idea for not only the structure, but I think it really just like, this is going to sound very obvious, but it helps with the geography of the movie. Like literally we can see where everything is, but it also just makes points of interest for the film. Because otherwise it's just like winter forest, like that's not interesting. That's just all the same. But it's like, well, here's this cave, or here's this very specific trap,
here's
or
a cliff.
Here's this character. Here's the cliff.
Yeah.
Here's this thing. Here's that, here's this shed. Here's the shop,
Well, and it's very good at, you're able, quite literally just able to tell where they're at any given point, because it's literally just telling you. Like you don't necessarily need establishing shots or anything like that for this movie. It's just gets right into it with these little animated map interludes. Yeah,
and it's great. Yeah. So really, really good idea there. A lot of things work. Pacing work. Literally, again, 10, 15 minutes too long for me. But otherwise, I think it was a really, really well done film. The intro didn't work. It just was a style. It's just a preference thing. It didn't work for me.
I still agree. Well,
and it's different than the rest of the movie too. It's like a more exaggerated, in my opinion, annoying version of the rest of the movie. That it's just like I said, it's just like jib jab elf yourself, which I think those are funny, but it's like, I just was like, okay, really? I was like, I don't know. It wasn't really funny.
I could not understand what was being sung for a lot of it too, personally, because there's like a song going on, and maybe I'm just like spoiled with captions and stuff, but I felt like it was like this big kind of chant song.
Yeah. You know, it's like one of those. I'm going to be at an Irish pub and you know.
I do kind of on that vein though. I want to mention that the music in this is pretty good. I think there a lot of repetitive use of certain themes, especially when they get into that cyclical nature, but it works in a lot of different contexts. I think I really liked it. I was wondering if the music was going to be available on Spotify, but I didn't see it or anything. Maybe eventually, but one other thing I want to mention before we get to spoilers is the editing in this movie. It's like interesting because, you know, we've made comparisons to silent movies and everything, and there's a lot of inspiration there, obviously. But I also think there's like a lot of there's a good mix of like modern comedic like editing like bits too, just in the way that like a comedic moment will be accentuated by like music cutting out or something like that. It's like. It's a good mix. Like you look at it, it looks very old, but there's a lot more like modern techniques, I guess, in it than you might expect. So,
all right, what would you give this as a rating, Holman?
It's like a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's one of my favorites of the year so far. Really, really like it. Hopefully, eventually, if it gets a home release, I might buy it. But yeah, go support it. You can stream it somewhere. It's like entirely like independently distributed too. Like I don't think it has any like no Amazon or even an A24 Neon kind of thing. It's all them. They've got a very funny social media kind of page that I don't know. I quite enjoy that and follow them, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah, congrats to them. Let's dive into spoilers.
Okay, spoilers for Hundreds of Beavers.
Hundreds of beavers, Holden.
There might even be thousands in this movie, Jimmy. There's
thousands
a lot.
Thousands of beavers, and hundreds of them die.
Yes, hundreds of them do die. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we can kind of start at the beginning. We mentioned the intro sequence. Least favorite part of the movie. Even on rewatch, it was it's fine. I mean, I was able to watch it with captions and I was able to understand what exactly they were saying, but what is it? I think it's a third of the way through the movie when it kind of changes to him when he teams up with the trapper and starts going on the routes and everything. There's a song that's sung that's in a very similar vein that is quite funny. I thought it was it was a lot funnier because they talk about how like, oh, he's a trapper. He's going on this quest, but he's probably going to die because he's not very good. I don't know exactly what was said, but something kind of like that. It was very funny. But I mean, he blows up the Applejack stand.
Yeah.
And I did think it was funny. The second time I made note of this, that like his entire arc is just like learning not to roll big objects into buildings. That's like part of his arc. I thought that was funny at the end. But anyway, he's learning, he's trying to survive. He kind of starts by attacking rabbits and everything. And I think one of my favorite bits at the beginning is this is one of the most Looney Tunes bits, is like the whole like icicle falling down thing where he's like, I can't remember exactly what prompts it. Oh, he's like hitting a tree because he's trying to get an egg out of a nest or whatever because he's hungry. And then an icicle falls down and almost kills him. And then there's a bit later where he tries it again. Icicle falls down. He moves out of the way. The icicle moves. And like he starts running around, does all that. I thought that was very funny. Very good bits.
I will say this. I thought the movie was a lot funnier as it went. Like, I think most of when he's like trying to eat and then the wind changes direction stuff. I'm like, I was like, oh, I don't. The first 15 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh no, I am stuck in this theater with people who think this is hilarious, and I just not having it at all. And then
came around on
and then I did come around on a lot of things.
I was worried because I was not getting much of peripheral. I was not seeing much of a reaction from Jimmy. I was like savoring every time I'd get like a chuckle out of you. I'm like, okay, he's not hating himself. He's not hating himself. That's good.
Holden was probably just waiting for the end of the movie for me to be like, that just sucks.
I kind of was. I was like, because I was like, I convinced Jimmy to go to this because I was like, I've heard very good things.
I was not planning on it. I had a lot of things going on.
I had been kind of like following this movie. I saw that they were doing like local showings, and they didn't have one for Sioux Falls for quite a while, and so I was like, oh, come on, the state is the perfect place for this. And then they announced it. I'm like, I gotta go. And then, convinced Jimmy.
It was a last minute decision too. I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's get some Popeyes. All right. I warmed up to it a lot. Basically, the more he becomes the fur trapper, I really like. Yeah. I love myself like a good mentor person to teach you the ropes, to show you how it's done. And Santa Claus,
Santa Claus helps out. Yeah, there's the funniest part of that whole sequence. I mean, it's very good at establishing a lot of the different like things you can do as a fur trapper, and then he eventually kind of adapts them in his own way because he kind of fails at doing what that guy specifically does. But I love the dogs.
The dogs were great. The dogs playing poker is one of the funnier bits of the movie.
It's very good. Every night they play poker.
And the last dog by itself playing by himself.
That was very good. I love them pulling the sled. Like, it's very funny. There's a couple moments in. I was thinking of a specific instance with the dogs, but it happens with the other animals too, where like sometimes the mascot heads are just like not on straight, or like they kind of get like shifted. So like I can only imagine the actor under there can't see what they're doing. But one of like the kind of dog mushing scenes, like one of the front dogs that kind of gets like off center, and it's like, oh God, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I really like those scenes a lot. Them getting picked off one by one. I was like, what is killing these dogs? It was wolves. I thought it was like maybe like a dragon or something.
Yeah, well,
or some sort of monster.
That initial kind of like illustration on the map where it's showing like what, lures what. It was like this weird creature. It looked kind of like it. I thought it was almost a dragon too or something, but never gets quite that fantastical.
No, it doesn't. But then, like the Santa Claus-esque fur trapper, I think they just call him the Master Trapper or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
His map is just super ornate and detailed. It's just like, anyways, that new trap
and
map.
It just becomes a very simple circle. Yeah. And he goes around a couple times on this circle before he really gets the hang of it. But as I said before, he kind of takes his failures and just adapts them into new ways to make traps, which I thought was fun. No matter how fantastical they kind of are. One thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if this is like a real thing. Why were the beavers lured by poop?
I have no idea.
I didn't understand that. Maybe that's like a thing. I don't know anything about beavers, but all the rest of them I guess like the skunk was also lured by frogs.
I didn't
really get that either.
I don't understand.
Whatever,
just a video gamey thing.
Yeah. And you mentioned it was very video gamey. Specifically, it's very like Metroidvania.
You have lots of counters, not like counters as in you're getting fighting. And you're pressing Y/triangle in Batman Arkham.
Yeah,
but point trackers in the top corners of the screen or whatever.
Well, it's Metroidvania because it's like you kind of go around, or I guess even roguelike might be a good description too, because you go around and you
get better each time.
Yeah, you can purchase upgrades with the things that you trap and everything, and then you kind of unlock new ways to do things. Yeah,
absolutely, it is very roguelike. Yeah, certainly. One of my favorite bits was the fishing, which the fish itself is just like looks like a sock or something. Like it's like knitted.
I wanted to mention before when you're on it, there's several creatures that are just puppets in this, and they are adorable and like I love them. It's like there's the flies, the maggots, and the frogs are all puppets, and they're all great. I love them all.
Yeah. The poor frog. But yeah, no, I love the fishing one and like figuring out the snowman with like the arm going up sort of thing.
There's that one bit you laughed at where like the arm goes up and then he's approaching. He's like, "Hey." That was pretty funny. Well, and even like there's some very funny bits with the snowman and fishing like earlier on too, where when he's first kind of figuring out the things with the fish, and he like starts like making this whole snow, like a snow dog that he wants to go fetch and everything, and it's very funny.
Yeah, and then the dog doesn't move.
Yeah. And he's frustrated with that. Starts flirting with a snow woman, and it's very good. And then he finds out that the fish will like come bite his fingers will come to his fingers if he bites them ahead of time. So he just starts biting them all. It's very funny.
Yeah, that was really good. I mean, one of the people we haven't talked about, main character, is the shop the clerk, I don't know, and,
shop owner,
and his daughter, I guess, who he wants her to marry the master trapper. She's not interested, and clearly our protagonist is interested in that, that whole dynamic, and that was lots of fun. And them like getting up to like no good behind his back.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. All the various gags back there,
and of course him spitting into the what do you call that?
The spittoon.
Yeah, that is of course the most like unsatisfying that he cannot get it in. It's like close and all that.
Initially, I for a while I was like, I'm not like super into this running gag, but it has a pretty good payoff at the end. So I think that I like the bit where he like spits it into his gun and tries to shoot it, and he just still misses.
He perfectly gets it into the tiny barrel of the gun, and then that was the funniest one. Really, like,
it was.
I was like, I was like, okay, we're doing this, and then that one actually made me chuckle a little bit.
The other thing about the daughter that I noted down here, I took notes the second time I watched it pretty extensively, but I liked the bit where the daughter is like brutally dismembering the raccoon corpse,
but it's like very not comic book, cartoony with like foam.
Yeah, because it's just a mascot costume and everything. I really liked that.
Yeah, go through the bits that you like, Holden. You got the tons of notes on this. Go for it.
The bit with the bird, he whistles and the bird comes and pecks him. That's also
the woodpecker.
The woodpecker. That's also very, very Looney Tunes-esque.
And then how he uses that in his he's got like Rube Goldberg machines by the end of it. That's great.
I described the whole thing here. So like his final thing with the wolves is such a perfect like culmination of a lot of different gags. So I wrote down he lures a bunch of beavers in with a decoy into this cave. Then as the wolves are attacking the beavers, he whistles, which causes the woodpecker to attack his snowman, which is holding back a tree from launching. The tree sends a trapped skunk hurtling and redirected by the big fan traps into the cave, where he proceeds to gas and trap everything inside by shooting down the icicles.
Yes.
Like it's so good. And like
everything ties together.
It's a very satisfying moment too, with a very funny like bit where he's smiling. He's like, and it's like slow zoom on his face.
It ties together all the visual gags.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's still not the climax of the movie. It's still like, oh no, I'm never gonna let you marry my daughter unless you bring hundreds of beavers.
Very good title job. Love that.
Just uproarious applause from our audience.
Well, and very much worth it. I love
it's like a slow clap moment. Like, all right, you earned it. You earned it. It's not what are we, some sort of Suicide Squad?
No,
where you roll your eyes, or you're going alone. You're Han Solo.
Well, and I honestly hadn't realized, because they have kind of a little like credits thing a third of the way into the movie. Initially, when he first introduces him going with the trapper and everything, it kind of brings up the cast and everything. And so, in the back of my mind, I just assumed that the title had dropped at some point in there, but then when I realized what it was building to, I was like, oh, okay, this is good. But also with that, there was also the funny moment where they like the dad is like yelling at them, and they're just like, pardon? They say that out loud. That was pretty funny. One of the only spoken lines. One of the other spoken lines I wanted to mention that I forgot about until the second time was when with the master trapper, when they're like getting attacked by the wolves and they're climbing up the tree, and like the trapper hands him the map, and like he says mush boy, because he had previously made him
mush boy
pull the sled when all the dogs were dead.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Any other notes you got here, Holden? Go for it.
Let me see if I'll just go through some of the better ones. We did the ice fishing thing. Oh, the bit, there was the bit where it was with the fishing and everything, where he contemplates suicide with the handgun, which was just kind of silly. Him trying to grab the coin off the table, which he tries for several bits. Mentioned the rabbits falling over all the time. I did like when they trapped the when he was initially trapping the rabbits towards the beginning of the movie, and he's like, the raccoons keep getting to him, so he like sets up a cage around it, and then the raccoons just come over and pick up the parts of the cage just to get to the rabbit. Thought that was pretty good.
Beavers will ingest their feces to gain the undigested nutrients.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go, I guess. Well, okay. And you know what? That makes sense because the only way that the poop works if it smells like beavers. Because he has to get that oil made from the beaver's innards or whatever. So I guess there you go. I guess that kind of makes sense. We have the running bit with the Sherlock Holmes.
Oh,
beaver.
yes, that's right. How does that culminate again?
That basically culminates at the trial, I think, with them just coming in and presenting the evidence that they
forgot
found.
about the trial.
But yeah, the Sherlock Holmes
the defense lawyer during the trial is the funniest part.
Yeah, that whole
it was
trial
just like
so good.
Just like it's disheveled tie.
He's like stumbling over it's so good because that whole trial there's no dialogue. It's just the beavers doing like kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you can just tell what they're saying. There's visual, aids up on their kind of PowerPoint thing going on. There is the one bit where the prosecutor beaver says Jacques. Just pretty funny. But yeah, that defense beaver is so funny. It's so good. One of the other things about that trial though that involves the Sherlock Holmes is when they're presenting all the like corpses they've found and like the various but they're also like speculating as to what the trapper did to them to make them look so weird.
Yeah.
Because there's the one that has like the very elongated neck and everything.
Right. That's right. And they're just way off.
Yeah. And they're just like, they just have these like illustrations up
just
there.
Just the worst possible thing he could have done.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
One of the traps I really liked when he's kind of making the rounds is that whole like big fan thing that he gets going. I think it's so absurd, but I feel like every time they go back to it, they add something that's very funny. The first time it happens is very funny because it's like there's the other like he's getting blown towards the fan, and there's the other beaver that's holding on for dear life and everything.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember exactly.
That's the one that gets his neck stretched out.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. But then there's also like the bit where he figures out he can catch like the beavers in like a fan kind of like trap circuit kind of thing. And then he just throws like a baseball bat in there to knock him out, which it was pretty good
just
gag.
Bonk, ding, ding.
It's so good. So good. Let's see.
I just want to rewatch the defense trial bit. I think in retrospect, that might be my favorite part of the movie.
It is really good. and it holds up on rewatch. I did want to mention there's a lot of very well like comedically timed trees falling on beavers that just work really well. There's my favorite one on rewatch was there's a bit where like there's a whole thing with like the ice on the lake or whatever that they can't move once they're out there. And so there's like two beavers out there that are like trying to, get off or whatever. They're trying to figure out everything, and just middle of them figuring it out, a tree falls on them and kills them. Just good timing. I love that. All the falling stuff, very similar kinds of just physical, stupid, well-edited humor. Related to the Sherlock Holmes, they're like watching him as he's like slowly walking on the ice, clubbing the beavers. I don't know if you remember that. There's a bunch of beavers trapped on the ice, and he's just slowly walking over and clubbing them.
There's one that's like, I have a family, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Begging for its life.
It's so good. There was another very Looney Tunes thing was when he goes back to the cabin and it's like a fake wall.
Oh yeah, that was very Buster Keaton.
Yeah, very much
falling down over him. Yeah,
that was very good. I said I like the aesthetic of the dam. That's kind of when it becomes like almost completely green screen for a bit there. And I do think the chase there is where I think they could maybe cut it down a little bit. But for the most part, I still really liked just the style of it, all the visual gags they were still able to get there. I still enjoyed that.
You get the Mecha Beaver.
The Mecha Beaver at the end
of the
is
movie.
very good. Just obviously a guy like with a mocap suit on or something. Like very funny. There's the funeral procession, which you laughed at because there was the Catholic like processional guy with like the incense. Like, wait, that was pretty funny.
This is a heap of dead beavers.
Yeah, him kicking all the beavers into that grave and then pointing the gun at the others and they just jump in. I guess the one big scene we haven't talked about is the kind of like bar brawl thing that happens when he gets captured. When he just fights all those beavers in there, which I think that might be my favorite scene in the movie. That was pretty personally, because there's so much like John Wick just crashing into things just constantly, and like he just picks up
that like, one beaver gets sawed in half.
Yeah, it gets sawed in half, which is good. There's the bit where he like just completely like skins a beaver, like pulls off its like head and everything, which was very good.
And then it's just a human skeleton, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is the funny part.
Another kind of recurring thing that happens a few different times that I think is pretty good editing is whenever they like someone will like pick up and suplex one of the like he'll like there was a bit in I think it was right around when he like first brought his couple of furs over to the cabin or whatever, and there's like that beaver that like falls in love with him because I think he like smells like the poop or whatever he is like, and he ends up like trying to kill it, and then the beaver like picks him up and like throws him back, but it's edited so it's like clearly just like a rag doll that does it. And there's a couple times where that happens in the barroom brawl too with a couple beavers. It's very funny. There's a bit in the bar, that brawl scene where he kicks a beaver into the fireplace and it just explodes.
Now that's good quality content.
It's so good.
That's well written. That's art.
It is art. And then I mentioned here that there's him like on the ice, and then there's that like the cruise ship of beavers chasing after him that sinks like the Titanic.
That's right.
Once it hits an iceberg.
Yeah, that's so good. It's
pretty good. Other than that, I feel like that's a lot of the really good bits that I love.
I'm sure there's more, just because they're so fast and there's just
so much,
so many that I can't possibly remember them all.
Yeah,
even the ones that I thought were really funny.
Yeah, it's so good. I love this movie. Yeah, it lived up to the hype for me. I think I'm glad that I was kind of following this movie as it happened.
It was an acquired taste for me.
Yeah,
I liked once he got with the Master Trapper, I think that's when it clicked for me.
Yeah,
before that I was like, I don't know. Yeah. But very creative, really well written, well thought out, well paced.
I didn't mention
just
the director.
Good job all around.
The director, it's his first movie apparently ever made. His name's Mike Cheslick, not Chislick, Cheslick. But very interested to see what he does in the future because there's a lot of talent there, and looks like he co-wrote it alongside the star too. So cool.
Yeah, when are we gonna make a movie, Holden?
Yeah. Well, it's stuff like this. I'm like, there's a lot of talent that goes into this, but it really does show.
But we can do that, obviously.
No, it's just like it shows that like anyone can do this. Really, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's an awesome time we live in, Holden, and a horrible time.
Yeah, simultaneously. Good for hundreds of beavers. Bad
Good for hundreds
of
other
beavers. Things.
All right, Holden, let's move on to our review of Challengers starring Zendaya. We're going to start off spoiler-free, so if you have not watched it, you are safe for now.
All right. Non-spoilers for Challengers. Jimmy.
Holden, it's Love Triangle, the movie, in a way that you've never seen a love triangle before because tennis is involved. Yes. Zendaya is involved.
Yes.
Luca Guadagnino is involved.
Yes.
All right. Because he's brought us Call Me By Your Name, a movie I have not seen that apparently is very good. With Timothée Chalamet. Put him on the map.
Yeah.
I have seen Bones and All, though. That's also Timothée Chalamet.
Yes.
And it's terrific.
The Suspiria remake, which I haven't seen.
I heard it's very good.
Yeah, I've heard it's good.
So potentially 4 for 4 here, Luca Guadagnino. Yeah. One of the more fun names to say in all of cinema. Up there with M. Night Shyamalan, Ding Dong, and Quentin Tarantino and others. And Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos I think is number one for me.
Guadagnino's getting up there.
Yeah.
All right. Just add a funny middle name to that.
Yeah. So directed by him, written by Justin Kuritsky's, which apparently this is his first movie he's written.
Really?
But a couple notable things about him. He's married to Celine Song.
Very cool.
Director of Past Lives. And he also, did you ever see, this had to have been like 10 years ago, very viral video, the potion seller
I have
video?
not seen this. No.
Okay. You might want to look it up after. It's a pretty funny video. But it's just this guy talking to the camera with kind of a funny camera filter on, and he telling this story about a potion seller. And I'd recommend it. It's very good.
Okay.
But this is the same guy.
Okay. This movie's not funny.
No, it's not. But it's just like, it's an interesting that he did both of these things. Shows the range of a man.
The range of him. A real renaissance man.
Yeah.
What's his name? Justin
Justin
Kuritsky's.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, married to
Awesome.
Celine Song. There you
Cool.
go.
All right. Sweet. This movie's terrific. I mean, this movie is just excellent. Starting with the writing. This movie is phenomenally written. I cannot believe it's not based on a book.
Yeah,
Seems
it
like
feels
a book.
like a book.
These characters
Well,
are just fantastic. And the way that this story is told is a real credit to both Justin Kuritsky's as the writer and Luca Guadagnino as a director, because it is this wide, like expansive story that is like, boiled down, it is a simple love triangle with tennis as like this motif that ties everything together.
Yeah.
But it just is all over this place because it is a Christopher Nolan dream of non-linear storytelling.
Really
like Christopher Nolan's watching this movie and this is like, I aspire to be this. Like it makes him jealous.
Yeah.
It is incredibly well told. Somehow it is perfectly cast as well. The three characters are phenomenally written, and they are perfectly portrayed by Zendaya as Tashi Duncan, our lead character.
Yes.
Mike Faced as Art Donaldson, and then Josh
West
O'Connor.
Side Story.
Oh, that's right. I was like,
he's like the best friend in West Side Story.
that's right. He totally is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was very good in that movie too.
Yeah, I've only seen it the once. I didn't give it out of 10 out of 10 my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah,
like someone
good.
else
It's
I
good.
know. It's all right. It's pretty good. Did you cry during the trailer of that, Holden?
No,
A
I
tear.
didn't.
Oh, Spielberg's back. All right. Josh O'Connor as Patrick Schweig. Schweig. I mean, just all three of them.
They were all so good in like so
So
many different
good.
ways.
They and they do the thing where, and Zendaya is perfect for this, where they're like, they start and they're like 15, and then they're also like, what is it, like late or mid 30s, something like that later on.
They do a really good job. I think at the start of this they're like 18.
18,
I think they're
okay.
18, or Zendaya's 18. I don't remember about the others, around that age regardless. But no, they do a really good job of like making them like look older without trying too hard, really. Like it's like clearly how, I can't remember what the gap in time between the very
I think
start and
it's
the
13 years, I believe, because I think
years.
the beginning is so like the core structure of this movie is this tennis match that takes place between Art Donaldson, played by Mike Face, and Patrick Schweig, played by Josh O'Connor, who were best friends and are not anymore. For some reason. Okay, why are they not friends? Probably has something to do with this love triangle.
Yeah.
And they are playing in this like low-end tournament. They're both past their prime. What is going on here? And that's like the overarching structure of it, all right?
Yeah.
And then it's literally like set one, here we go.
Yeah.
It is act one. Set two is act two. Set three is act three.
I love the structure of this. It is very cool. Very interesting.
And Zendaya is sitting right at the mid-court, first row.
Yeah.
Just her
Right in the
presence in this movie is phenomenal. Zendaya, this is her defining role so far. I mean, she just is phenomenal. She's got a best actress nom locked
I would
in.
think
like
so,
just
yeah.
incredible. She just Tashi Duncan as a character has a huge presence. Just her charisma, it just overshadows everything.
Yeah.
She is just the
mean,
dominant force in this movie, and Zendaya just captures that.
Well, and
she has that aura.
It's both in the movie and outside of the movie, right? Her presence in the movie is all encompassing as well. Not only like later on when they're so entangled with her, but like even when they first like become aware of her, they're like, well, I guess Art maybe doesn't know who she is at first, but like Patrick is like, she's like the biggest deal in tennis right now. She's like such a big, and then they're at this like party that's all about her and everything. Yeah, her presence is just everywhere.
And and outside the movie too, in our world, it's like Challenger. What's Challenger? The Zendaya tennis movie. That's what this is. It is the Zendaya tennis movie. And it is just, this movie rips. I mean, it just is.
Pascal is a producer on this.
Oh, interesting. But this movie is, I mean, just phenomenal. I think each of the characters in this is so well developed, and you really get a sense of where each one is coming from, and their frustrations with each other. They're all just very flawed.
Yeah.
But you empathize for each one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a testament to the writing and a testament to the performances. They feel like real people. You are invested in this friendship between Art and Patrick, the two guys, and you're kind of, how is Zendaya's character, Tashi Duncan, fitting into this, their life choices, where things end up. The choices they make down the line, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know about the ramifications of these choices. Sometimes you're screaming at the screen, this is not a good idea. Yeah. And I think the thing that really seals the deal for this movie is the ending is phenomenal.
Oh, the ending is so good.
Up there for like a Whiplash.
It's very similar to Whiplash's ending. But like
in a way that is so satisfying.
Yeah.
And it just works. It's just like it just works. It does. And I cannot wait to dive into why that works so well. Yeah. But it's a great movie, similar to Whiplash, that just has this beautiful, punctual exclamation point at the end that just, boom, there's the end. Right there, no falling action, no resolution. You don't need it. That's the climax. We're done. See you later. Roll credits.
Sure.
Luca Guadagnino, everybody. Here we go. Just so good. So good. The nonlinear storytelling here. Again, how did they make this so seamless? How did they just jump you all over the place in a way that's not jarring at all? It's got to be the backwards baseball cap, right? I mean, one of the characters to show that he's young wears a backwards baseball cap in a couple scenes. Very reminiscent of Saw 3D.
That's true. Yeah, but it's not like distracting.
It's not distracting. I'm only pulling that up because I want to bring Saw into the conversation. Yeah. Our Saw fans will understand. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Saw 3D.
Jigsaw flashback or something.
Yes, Jigsaw hat. Baseball cap.
Yeah, it'll be
backwards hat.
It's like a meme
hilarious.
At this point. Well, yeah, so this is going to be cheesy, but this movie itself is like tennis, right? It's going back and forth between time periods and
intentionally so.
Yeah. It's intentionally very much like tennis. You could say that about a lot of the conversations too. A lot of the way the conversations are filmed, they're very back and forth with a very like precise rhythm to them. The whole movie is tennis. The whole movie is also sex. The whole
movie?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. It's because a lot of the movie is very much about, or like one of the things they mentioned in the movie is about how intimate like tennis is, right? And there's a lot of comparisons drawn between stuff like intimate moments like sex and tennis and everything. So I don't know
I actually didn't think this movie was as steamy as I thought it was going to be. Like,
I think this is a very horny movie.
I think it's more. I think it's just mostly in the dramatic tension of it, though. I really think like if you actually sit down and think about how often is like our actual physical intimate moments happening. It's such a small percentage of the movie.
This is true. Yeah,
it's more in the tension of the scenes that you feel it. So I think that
I'll agree with that.
I think that this is not like the steamy, oh my gosh, 50 Shades of Grey, what's going on here? No, it's not that at all.
No.
They're like the scene in the trailer where they're like in the hotel room or whatever.
That's
there. And even that really, that really doesn't amount to anything that sizzling from it in terms of like this movie. It's not like this was R-rated for like really graphic sexual content.
No.
Like if you watch the first 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, you're going to see more than you are in this. I mean, really, there's more locker room tennis. I'm a guy having a conversation in the locker room nudity than there are in actual passionate scenes between the characters. Really, I mean, if you think about it. So
I don't disagree. It's you don't go in expecting full nudity sex scenes or anything like that. It is mostly the tension, but I think the tension is so palpable that like I think that's why it's so present throughout the movie that a lot of people are like, myself included. I think it's just I think it's just a very like horny movie, I guess, for lack of better words.
Okay.
I don't know. I think so.
I didn't think it was. I'm like, yeah, they're just hot people in this movie.
Yeah, but I think it goes beyond that.
Okay.
Personally.
All right.
Personally. I know I'm not alone there, but
okay.
You speak your truth, Jimmy.
All right. Yeah, okay. That was a side conversation. The music. I love the music in this too. It's like it's like John Wick is about to throw some punches here. Like, let's go.
When you made
Here
that
we
comparison
go.
after the movie, I was like, yeah, it is. It is like a club scene from a John Wick movie. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross did it, who I don't know if they've won an Oscar. They did like The Social Network and like Gone Girl for David Fincher. I don't know if they won Oscars for that. I can't remember, but very, very talented composers. But this is really good. Very good stuff.
It was fantastic.
I've listened to it outside of the movie a couple times. So.
Yes. One of the other things I appreciate about this movie is with all the tennis involved, they did not just keep it straightforward. Every tennis scene is different in terms of like the style it's told. You have some scenes that it's all Zack Snyder slow motion, just sweat beads coming down, little taps of the racket on a nice jiggly slow motion muscular leg. Lots of just jiggly calves, thigh muscles, just huge quads, just blasting out of masculine legs in this movie. Wow.
And
you know what? It is a horror movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't think this movie's horny? You're describing this. What the heck?
That's some. Then you have just like the oneers where it's a long shot and you're back, forth, back, forth. Lots of,
Well, okay, there's another thing. Like a lot of the sounds they make, you could interpret it very sexual.
You know what? I think tennis is just very sensual when it comes down to it.
Which they do mention.
There's a reason you start at love in tennis, Holman. Did you even know that?
Nope.
Love means nothing in tennis, is what they say. It means 0. 15. You know how tennis scoring works, Holman? You play Wii tennis?
Absolutely not.
It's stupid. I don't understand why they do it. You get 15 points for your first 2 points. So you get 15 points for your first point, and then you get another 15, so it's 30. Okay. The point after that is 40, though. So 15, 30, 40. And then if you are up by at least 1 point, aka 10 points, your next point wins the game.
I feel
but
like
if you're tied, you go to deuce. It's in there. They're like 15 love.
Okay. Well, I guess like what the scoreboard is just
like, who invented tennis scoring? Why is it that way? Comment down, please. Comment. Why
the scoreboard they have up on screen is just like how
it's
many.
Just there. It's the game. It's the games more than anything.
Serve,
yeah. So
but
yeah,
I that's a good thing to mention. As someone who knows literally nothing about tennis, I was fine. I followed everything. It was very accessible. I knew I was able to pick up on enough things, and I knew enough that I was able. They don't go too in depth with the tennis itself, really. No. At least the mechanics, they don't.
No, not the mechanics. But one of the other things I want to say. So there's the long shots. You got the slow motion, sweaty stuff. You have really technically impressive POV shots, but not POV of the players. It's like POV of the ball itself.
Yeah, no, that's. I wasn't sure if we wanted to mention that in spoilers or not, but yeah, there is a specific bit POV ball that is like. And it might be my favorite part of the movie, quite frankly.
Really?
It's so technically I don't know how they do it. It's very impressive looking, and it's at a moment in the movie where it's just the movie's got you pumped up, and then it has the music pumping. Yeah, the music gets you energized.
Lots of sweaty
boys.
boys.
Climactic thing, and then they just throw out this insane technical like achievement that I'm just like, yeah, do it.
Inject it into my veins. Let's go. Like you said, this movie just keeps building and building and building to such a satisfying conclusion too. Like this movie is all the conclusion in a way that it's like, without getting into it, it's unsatisfying, but it's satisfying. It's satisfyingly unsatisfying, and I cannot wait to unpack that in spoilers. So just go out and watch this movie, darn it. Holy smokes, it's good. Fashion. I'm not even one that really pays attention to fashion in movies. Is on point here. Like in terms of the character, in terms of like, I'm not talking about like looking good. I'm talking about like representing the characters.
Sure. No, I get it.
Settle down, Holden. Get him out of here. This guy. The fashion is great here because you have some characters. I don't want to even get into it because we'll save it for spoilers. It's just like this perfectly represents the characters of this time, where they're at, and that's what I'll say about that. Let me just looking over my notes here, looking for non-spoiler things. Just want to make sure I got everything.
I wrote down like 4 notes. Let me see if any of that's non-spoiler.
Yeah, your 4 notes. You had like 30 for.
Well, I watched. This. This was just a couple things I wrote down before.
He had 30 for the Hundreds of Beavers. Check out our Hundreds of Beavers review on YouTube. But Holden, I mean, just great. It's just great. I really like this. It's very well done. It should certainly be up for Best Original Screenplay, Best Picture, Best Actress, and I would go with actor noms as well. I mean,
they're all
maybe
great.
Even director for Luca Guadagnini. This movie is phenomenal. I mean, it is really good.
Do you like it more than Dune Part 2?
I do not like it more than Dune Part 2. I really like Dune Part 2, but this is number 2 for me in the year.
Yes.
Just exceptional. I will say this is the best acted movie of the year I've seen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know exactly where it falls in my rankings because I did love Hundreds of Beavers, so I'm kind of in between this and that for second place. But that's a good week for movies.
Yes.
Really loved this.
Yes, check out our full podcast if you're just watching this review.
Yes.
Speaking of, Holden, you want to give this a rating?
Yeah, I think I'll give it probably like a 9.5. I think. Yeah, I don't think I'm at a full 10. I'm not sure if I even have a good reason for not giving it a full 10, but not quite on the level like the enjoyment of something like maybe Dune Part 2 for me.
Okay. All right, sweet. With that, we're going to dive into spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, click away. Skip over this if you're listening to the full podcast. Otherwise, we're going to dive into spoilers right after this little jingle.
All right, spoilers for challengers.
Oh, yes. Where do we even want to start, Holden?
I don't know.
At the beginning?
At the beginning, I guess, which is in the future. Well, 2019.
2019.
The future 2019. Yeah, but it's them kind of initially. It starts with them in the apartment, right? Or it's like a.
Well, it starts with the match. They're playing the match.
Yeah, the match. And it's just showing,
establishing the literal triangle.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the 3 characters.
It's very cool.
Let's go.
Yeah, you don't, and as you just kind of said, non-spoilers, you're interested to see where it kind of goes or like how it reaches the point that they're at, where 2 best friends are no longer friends at all, seemingly.
Yeah. Real banshees of Inisherin. What's going on
what
here?
is going
Why are we friends
exactly
anymore? Probably the girl. It's probably the love triangle.
Probably
the home wrecker.
The girl is involved. Yeah, probably.
Yes. Who? Okay. Love triangle. Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob here? Are you Team Art? You Team Patrick?
I don't know. Well, I guess I'd probably say Art.
Well, clearly,
yeah,
I'm like Patrick is just such a what I like. I get the fact that Art has kind of just lost his edge completely here, and he's dull and he's boring. But just as a person, he's not flawless. But like that's a very human. Like he's done. He's won like in the movies won like 6 Grand Slams or something.
I think it is. I think I've seen some people online talk about how like you kind of go back and forth on who you like empathize with the most. And I think the biggest argument against Art would be him kind of like turning Tashi and Patrick against each other, like in college or whatever, which is probably like the worst thing he does in the movie. And it's
like the one thing he has passion for too. Yeah, it's like the one thing is like he is so insecure about Tashi being with Patrick. Like he would be fine with it being anybody else. Yeah, and that's like the one thing that gets him fired up. Yes, which is why the ending just is phenomenal. But we'll get to that later.
But yeah, no, I think Art is very easily the most empathetic character, even including Tashi.
Yeah. Also considering like Patrick has an affair with her and she's got like a kid and she's married. Were they married the first time? I can't remember.
So, or I don't know. I can't remember how long that. I wonder if there's a time here, but
Tashi's 2011. Tashi is just a force of nature, though. Engaged. I love the fact that like both guys in the movie are like how could someone not be infatuated with you? Like you are just like the epitome of strong, successful, like I don't give a crap about anything else. Nothing's gonna stop me. I just sheer will, here I go. And it's like just makes it all the more tragic of her injury. I mean, the level of dread that I felt the whole first half of this movie, just waiting and anticipating that knee just shattering. Oh, yeah. Or oh my gosh. Yeah, oof. One thing we haven't talked about either, that was a great moment because she does have like several matches before it happens, and just every time I'm like, I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen.
I don't know, I know literally nothing about tennis, but all of the tennis matches in this look very good. Like the actors look like they put in a lot of time practicing and learning stuff, and they look realistic at least to a novice. I don't know if they looked.
I don't watch a ton of tennis. I like playing tennis more. Boy, this movie made me want to play tennis. It really did. Just like just turn on the soundtrack. Yeah. Hit. Yeah, come on.
Smash a racket on the ground.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that injury was just gruesome. Oof. One of the things I want to talk about is the sound design. Because like people hit the ball and then Tashi hits the ball and it just sounds like a cannon. It literally does. Like if you watch the movie and when that Anna or whatever her name is that she's playing against, it's just like boom, like normal tennis sound. And it's like,
just hitting it way harder.
It just is violent. It's a violent sound when Tashi hits it, and just Zendaya's face, it's just that sheer determination, just like primal, I am a hunter and you are gonna die. You are my prey. I am gonna eat you for dinner tonight. Like, my word, I do not want to play against this woman in tennis. No. And that's why it's like, golly, it's just so frustrating that she gets hurt, right? Especially when you have Patrick, who's like very talented, but just like, I'll just skate by my own success. Where she's super talented and has the work ethic of Art, and just the one thing that differentiates her from Art is she's just never satisfied. No, and clearly, really, the only thing she cares about is tennis. Yeah, and that is the crux of her relationship with Art. So it's like when Art quits caring about tennis, that's what creates their biggest rift. And it's like, well, I don't know if this relationship is even going to work anymore. Yeah. Just like, my goodness, this lady, who is she? Yeah. She's like inhuman, but in a really cool, interesting way. She's like it's like a one-note character that you feel a lot of empathy for. Who's not one note, like who actually, it seems one note, but then you actually get to know her and unpack that, and you uncover all that depth, which is cool.
There's that scene with her and Patrick talking in that alleyway, in like the final third of the movie, which is it's a very good scene. But I've seen a lot of people point it out now, and I don't think I noticed it when I was watching it, but I feel like I can't miss it now. But Zendaya gives this like crazy eye thing with her performance. She like does this thing where like I've seen a few different like screen grabs of it where like one of her eyes is like doing a completely different thing from her other one in her performance. And it's like a very, like, I don't know how to describe it without just like showing it, but like you can tell exactly what she's feeling by it. And it's a very unique, like facial, like tick. I don't know. It's so bizarre, but it's so cool. That's just something I wanted to mention before I forgot. But.
Yeah, no, I did not notice that either. I want to say like the fashion. So like Zendaya, obviously, she's like super refined, professional, just upper class, elite, like businesswoman. Like, don't mess with me. You have Art, who's just like very clean, professional. You know, kind of like perfect. You know, like role model sort of thing. And then Patrick is just. He's got the shorts that just look like boxers. Yeah. They don't match his top at all. They're like off-brand athletic gear.
He like doesn't have any money like at all.
That one of the just saddest parts is like when he like hooks up with the girl just so he can have a place to stay.
Yeah, just so he has a place to stay. There's the part where he signs up for the tournament and like gets the piece of the like Dunkin' sandwich from the woman because he's just like so hungry. Yeah.
And like you could lose today on purpose to get the $400.
And I think that stuff is what really makes him empathetic in some cases, even though he does some bad things. But I think that's kind of where that falls in.
And really, because it's not like he really caused his relationship to end with Art.
No,
either. I mean, he does have the affairs later on, like that's on him. But it's not like he caused that fracture. It was more like Art decided, no, I'm cutting you off, and I'm not talking to you anymore. And I'm basically like, I'm gonna be with Tashi and gonna be protective and weird about it.
There's a whole theme throughout about their relationship and how close are they between Art and Patrick. There's a lot of hints that it's a lot closer than just best friends, or at least Patrick thinks that way in some regards. I mean, there's the famous scene from the trailer, which is the scene that everyone's calling the Zendaya threesome scene or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Which, if you just see it in the trailer, you might think is going one way, but it kind of ends with just those two like making out for an extended period of time. And then there's a lot of like little like ticks in there too, where I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of times where they're just like talking and they're very close to each other.
Yeah, the churro.
Yeah, there's a lot of phallic shaped foods that are consumed. Like there's bananas, there's churros, there's a lot of things that I don't know. It's very, you don't exactly know. I get the sense that Patrick has some sort of feelings because you kind of, when there's that scene where he's like flipping through Tinder or whatever, seemingly confirms because he swipes right on a guy that he might be bisexual. So I get a sense that maybe he has some feelings at least for Art, and Art does not reciprocate them in that way. Yeah, but that kind of whole dynamic between them is kind of an interesting spin. And I think the director Luca he's gay in real life, I believe. So okay. I think that's portrayed. I mean, as someone who isn't gay himself, but it seems pretty well done, I think, and pretty subtle in a way that I guess maybe someone with lived experience could portray. So.
Yeah. They're just really, really good all around with the cast and the time jumps and making it feel seamless. Like they really do feel like they're in their 30s, and in the 2019 stuff, and they really do feel like they're 18 or 26 or 23 or whatever. They like, you really do feel those stages of their life and that they are developed people over time, and this is the passage of time, even though it is non-linear. Like that's the crazy thing, is they accomplish this in a non-linear story format. Then it progresses towards that ending. Do you want to talk about anything before we talk about that ending?
I did want to mention that another thing that was pointed out when reading stuff online was that Tashi's kid could be Patrick's.
Certainly, yeah.
Because I didn't like pick up on like the time gap there, but like when they first had that affair, it was 8 years ago, and like the kid is 8 years old, I think.
Okay, yeah.
So that's just an interesting detail. They never get into that. That's just something you really have to like just notice, I guess. But the other thing I wanted to mention, because we were talking about like all the interesting ways they filmed the tennis scenes. The one we didn't mention was when it's like from below. You remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Oh yeah, it's like I assume, I don't know exactly how they did it. I assume they had to have built like a clear glass
thing, yeah.
But yeah, it's like from below and you see it all. It's a crazy shot. It's
I
pretty
don't
cool.
remember that one.
Yeah.
That is cool.
But other than that, yeah, we can probably get to the ending.
Well, I did want to. Do you think they have the "I love you, I know" line in there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they've seen Star Wars? Like,
I don't know.
That's like very famous Empire Strikes Back line. And it's kind of weird to have it in this movie. It almost comes off as like, I didn't know that, like, oh, that's a good line. And they didn't realize that it was in one of the most popular movies of all time.
I mean, I'm sure they've seen Star Wars, but like, I don't know if it was like fully intentional. It is just a good line. It's such a good line for portraying that specific relationship. And so I don't know, but you're right. It is just kind of a weird little reference.
Yeah. Yeah. Very odd. Let's talk about the ending. I mean, just a Chekhov's gun that you don't realize is a Chekhov's gun until it's right about to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's the best version of that. That's the greatest version of that trope with the whole tick. The signal that, hey, last night I was intimate with Tashi Duncan. Yes. The Dunkanator, as they call her.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's earlier in the movie when they're like talking about like Patrick's
trying to be subtle.
Yeah, Patrick's my man doesn't kiss and tell or whatever. I was like, all right, well, if you had sex with her, you don't
have to say anything, just do this.
That was so good. Yeah. And as you said, like once you know it's going to happen, it's like, oh yeah, very satisfying.
And you're just waiting. They really drag out that moment too, like building up. It's like Luca really wanted, I want the audience to know this is coming.
Yeah.
Cause I didn't put it together until like 2 or 3 minutes before it happened. I was like, oh, this is going to happen. And I think everybody in that theater sometime in, the 10 to 15 minutes kind of leading up to that, if not the final 60 seconds, realize, oh my gosh, this is about to, and then what is that going to, what is, that is going to set art off, and how is that going to impact everything? And like you said, very, very reminiscent to Whiplash. And I don't want to spoil Whiplash's ending, but it's basically this idea of someone pulling this perfect string at the perfect time in a way that could either completely unravel everything, or it could fix everything in the most weird, satisfying way possible. And it just lights the fire that was missing in Art Donaldson, and just is like, let's go. And they have that incredible tense volley. The whole movie, you're waiting to see who's going to win this match.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'm like, they better not decide who wins this match. This movie is going to be so much better with an ambiguous ending. And it doesn't even matter, because that's the other point. It's like you're setting this whole thing up. There's so many stakes riding on this. And then we realize that wasn't the point. The point was, it wasn't like Zendaya's the lines earlier. It's like, it's not about the actual game. It's like the relationship. It is it was beautiful, and that was tennis, and this volley between them. And I love even the visual cues of Zendaya. Just earlier in the match, she's not even everybody else's head is moving, and she's just static,
just kind of
zoning out. And that she is just on the edge of her seat with every looking over, and then coming out in the middle, about to slam it down, going that, getting caught by Patrick.
Yeah.
All right. Patrick's point, by the way, if you run into the net like that, you lose the point. So Patrick won that point. Not the game. Okay. The game's still going on. The match, anyway. And then, of course...
I thought that was the end.
No.
Oh, okay.
And then Tashi gets up and screams, "Let's go," and all that. And just, boom, roll credits at the climax of the movie.
Oh, my gosh.
That's one of my favorite tropes, ending at the climax. Really good. Like if you can
good.
pull it off, it's the
you run
final
the risk of
note.
being unsatisfying, but if done right, you can do it. It's very good.
That was like we talked about in our Hundreds of Beavers review, that title reveal. This ending was just like a slow clap. Like you earned it. You got it. That was really good. Lessons in screenwriting 101. Show this movie. Like, here we go. To again take something that's just a roll your eyes trope, the love triangle, and flesh it out into one of the more interesting character studies, dramas, nonlinear thrillers, really.
Yeah.
Just really well done. All around. Chef's kiss. Well done. Fantastic movie that I hope gets some awards recognition. I hope it gets some box office success, word of mouth. Check out the movie. Hopefully you haven't listened to this if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, hopefully you are enjoying this discussion with the spoilers. Let us know what you think down in the comments on YouTube. What do you think about this movie? What do you like? What maybe didn't work for you? What other movies would you compare it to? That sort of thing. Any other final thoughts, Holden?
I just wanted to mention very, very insane looking windstorm.
Yeah, I thought it was like maybe a hurricane.
Yeah,
it
looks. Well, okay, it's funny you mentioned that. It does look like the hurricane from Bodies, kind of. Just I'm sure probably similar effect with how they did it, but yeah, looks just insane.
Okay. And on that note, let's go to our final segment of the show, which is, of course, Holden. What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
All right, Jimmy. This week, watched a few things. First off, I watched Dream Scenario.
Oh, how was that?
I liked it. Nick Cage, very funny performance from him. Very good. I can see what the hype was there. I think it loses steam a bit by the end.
Okay.
I think it utilizes its concept in a really interesting way, especially in the first half. But a little later on, I feel like it kind of gets over simplified, I guess. And there's a whole kind of like epilogue part to the movie that has this whole like bit, without spoiling it, it has this whole like extra concept that was just it feels kind of shoved in there, like, and doesn't really feel very natural. Does have Greg from Succession cameo. It's just that actor is just in it for like a minute. I'm like, what the heck? Very strange, but yeah, no, I liked it. An enjoyable movie. So I'd recommend it if the concept sounded interesting to you. Otherwise, and I know you were watching these. I watched the first two Planet of the Apes movies. Rewatched them for me.
The first two new ones.
Yeah. Rise and Dawn I've seen. I haven't watched War again yet. But I hadn't seen these since... I couldn't remember if I saw Dawn in theaters or not. But the very latest, I mean, I saw War in theaters, and I haven't seen any of them since then. And that was like 2016. So yeah, it's been quite a while. 8 years. What are you thinking of them? You've got 40 minutes left.
War for the Planet of the Apes. Yes.
What are you thinking?
I mean, Rise is fun. It's not great, but it's fun. It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Dawn is certainly, the visuals are incredible. I mean, that's really, I mean, the movie's 10 years old, and it really holds up. Andy Serkis, the mocap. Who did the ILM? Who did the effects for that? It's exceptional.
Fox, so.
It's exceptional. Weta maybe. They did a phenomenal job with that. I really think the character Koba does a lot for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, Koba's so good. And Koba's a great character.
And I mean, like, you even feel his impact in War for the Planet of the Apes, which I think is a testament to that character. I really like the pulling of you empathize with both sides. Weta, okay. You really empathize for both sides of Dawn, the human faction and the ape faction.
Yeah.
Because there's the good and bad on both sides, and it just makes it very complicated in a way that I like. There's a lot of kind of politicking in a movie that's, half of the characters are monkeys.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. Caesar's great. I mean, Caesar's a phenomenal character. I'm really enjoying that. And War for the Planet of the Apes is also very good. Interesting, like, lore. And I'm excited to see like the final 40 minutes. I will say Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, one of the more exciting ends to a second act. It almost feels like it could be the end of the movie.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty insane where that goes.
Kind of like that. Dune Part 1 kind of has a big, epic climactic thing to end just the second part, and there's a whole third of the movie left.
Yeah.
Just really good. I think it's a step up. Dawn is a step up from Rise, and War seems to be similar. I don't know if I like it more than Rise at this point. Just because I think
Rise or Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Just because Koba is such a strong presence in
Koba's so
in
good.
Dawn.
And it's like rewatching Rise, like Koba's in Rise a little bit too. It's fun seeing that build up. I don't know how much of that was planned from the start, but it's cool that it's there. So.
Yeah. So I went to Omaha with my wife to celebrate her birthday over the weekend. And Omaha in Nebraska is famous for its zoo. Mm-hmm. It's one of the renowned zoos in the United States.
Yeah.
And at the zoo, one of the things we visited, that was the last thing we actually went to. It's kind of the last second thing was the apes. And I didn't see any chimpanzees, but I
don't think they have
the gorillas. And I was just sitting, there was a gorilla kind of hiding in this like boulder place. And I just kind of sat along the windows, just kind of looking out. And the gorilla kind of just walked over, like he was just chilling. He was a good 40 feet away from me. And he just walked over towards the glass. And then a kid like kind of cut in front and was like kind of looking at him, trying to get his attention. He kind of looked over and the kid just freaked out. He's kind of scared. And he just kind of sat right next to me. And we were just kind of having a moment, just like literally. I'm not even joking, Holden. I was sitting kind of on the side, so my face, my eyes were like a few inches from the glass, and this gorilla was. I mean, like this gorilla is closer to me than we are to each other right now. Like it was the pane of glass was right between us, and our faces, like our eyes, when we made eye contact with each other, were like 6 inches at most away from each other. And I was just like, hey, you know what? I respect you because I've seen these apes movies. So
I know what you can do.
Planet of the Apes, that happens. Just know that I'm one of the good ones. All right, side. I like you guys. Put a good word for Caesar for me.
See, the only thing I think of with the gorilla exhibit at the Omaha Zoo is me getting traumatized as a kid by a gorilla pounding on the glass right in front of me.
Yeah. So a gorilla pounded on the glass behind me. So I don't know if he saw this other gorilla here. Boom, pounded on the. I also saw a baby elephant though.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard that they got a little baby elephant. Oh my god,
super cute. Maybe I need to go. So cute. Oh my goodness, baby elephant. Really, really cute. My word, just cannot just put into descriptions of a cute baby elephant. But that otherwise for me, Holden, the only thing I had watched is Emily, my wife, had just watched, or excuse me, read the 1,250 page book, The Count of Monte Cristo. So we watched the 2002 movie with good old Jim Caviezel or whatever. I forget how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
From
Jesus.
Sound
of Freedom.
And Sound of Freedom. Jesus. The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
And also Guy Pearce is in it. And then Henry Cavill is in this movie. He's so, like he walks in, he's just a little boy. I'm like, is that Henry Cavill? Just is. So that was surprising. I liked it. Apparently it's a vast oversimplification of the book, but really interesting character, the Count of Monte Cristo, and lots of good just little sequences. Do you know anything of the story? Have you seen this movie at all? I liked it. It was worth watching. I enjoyed it. The book is long, so will I read it one day? Maybe, because I was like, there's a lot of scheming going on. Apparently the scheming's really good in the book, so might have to check it out. I like my nice plot. A nice scheme, a nice pulling of the strings behind the scenes to manipulate people.
Absolutely.
I'm all for manipulation of people.
You are big on that.
Yeah. What else have you done, Holden?
I started watching the Knuckles show on Paramount Plus.
Great. How's that?
It's fine. It's like the same level as the Sonic movies, really.
Why are you watching?
I don't know. Well, I was like, some of the circles I follow online were talking about it, and there's some controversy regarding it.
Oh boy!
And it's 6 episodes, like less than 30 minutes each. So I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll just watch it, whatever. Then I'll be prepped for Sonic 3.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. If you like the Sonic movies, you'll probably like it. I'm almost done with Alan Wake 2, and I'm gonna platinum it while finishing the game too. So that's pretty cool. Double whammy. Don't have to go back for anything. And really liking it. I'm liking it more as I go, I think. And then on my brand new PC, I am playing a game from 2003 called 13, stylized with the Roman numerals for 13. But it's this kind of like spy first-person shooter game with a very, very cool cel-shaded comic book art style. Makes it hold up a lot better than it would otherwise. A lot of fun. I beat it last night, actually, I think. I loved it a lot. It had like a remake a couple years ago that's apparently really bad, but you can still buy the original like on Steam and stuff. You can kind of see it there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. The audience can't see it.
I think that's the remake.
That looks too clean.
Yeah, the remake kind of gets rid of the cell shading. That's one of the reasons people don't like it. Is it's kind of gets rid of the style of it. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. I'm looking at it now.
It's the classic game.
Yeah. So what else were you gonna say about it?
I finished it last night. It was good. I mean, shooting mechanics wise, it's pretty archaic. So that's not really what draws you in, but has a cool story. Ends on a cliffhanger, and apparently the game didn't sell very well when it first came out, so it never got a sequel. So kind of disappointing. It's based on a comic book, though. I should say. I think it's Belgian comic book. So I'm sure if I read that, I'd get the cliffhanger answered.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it for me, Jimmy.
All right. Next week, we got The Fall Guy.
Yes. Apparently it's good. So
yes,
I'm
kind
of excited. I love me a Ryan Gosling movie.
I do too. And Emily Blunt's in it.
Yes. She's fine.
She's
good.
She's good too.
Yeah, if you want to leave us a request, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or email us at tompodcast@gmail.com or donate to our Patreon. And that's it, I think.
All right. Yeah. Until next time, adios, pantalones.
Love you.